Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Today is Friday, January 10th, and we are a day away, can you believe it, from the Steelers' wild card round playoff game in Baltimore. I'll be heading to Baltimore a little bit later this morning and going to talk a little Steelers to kick off today's podcast. Also want to get into some Penn State thoughts after a brutal loss last night in the Orange Bowl for the Nittany Lions, as well as some Pirates movement, if you can believe it or not. But I first want to tell you this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, Steelers, Ravens. The Steelers are a gigantic underdog. You know that. We've talked about it on this channel all week, on this podcast, on other things. But I wanted to get into what the Steelers can do, what they need to do, keys to victory, something like that, how they can leave Baltimore with a win. And I do think it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. Isaiah likely? No, I do think it's possible. Here's what I want to see the Steelers do differently or emphasize on Saturday night at M&T Bank Stadium. Number one, a new offensive game plan. What they did the last time out against the Bengals, I didn't understand it. So run heavy, especially on first down. They're predictable. The first time they played the Ravens, they had a ton of success throwing it. I don't know why they deviated, but that needs to be changed, amended, be less predictable, do things that nobody is expecting, and put the ball in the air. For crying out loud, this is all the same thing. Trust Russell Wilson to win the game. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler. He's won a Super Bowl. You brought him here for a reason. If you're going to start him, let him do his thing. I don't understand that. All right, number two, and it's part of this, but I think it's an interesting, important storyline given how poorly he played in that Bengals game. Involve George Pickens. He has to be a part of this thing. He's your best offensive playmaker. Yes, I know he did not play well last week. Not saying anything different, but I would feed him the ball a lot. If he can get 15 touches, great. I want to run the game through George, trust him to get open and make plays, and I do think he's capable of doing that. I think it helps the offense as a whole. Number three, don't be afraid to go to Justin Fields. Maybe a running play. Have him throw early on. Okay with that. Use some gadget stuff. Line him up at wide receiver. Doesn't really matter. He, athletic-wise, or is talking about pure athletes, is very high up there for me. He doesn't do any good sitting on the sideline. We've made it this far. There's no tomorrow. I hate that cliche, but it's kind of true. And take advantage of everything you can. I mean, he honestly might be one of their best wide receivers. I kid you not. I mean, that at least pure athleticism, ability to run. I can't imagine he has that many problems catching the ball. Take advantage of Justin Fields. All right, defensively, one thing I'd like to see them do, they need to win matchups in the secondary. That's going to allow them to stop the run. It's going to allow them to rush Lamar Jackson. If you can get Dante Jackson, if he's healthy and productive, get something Corey Trice Jr., maybe Joey Porter, whatever. Win matchups. And the Ravens not having Zay Flowers should absolutely help the Steelers. That's fairly obvious, but they need to get after Lamar Jackson. Why? Well, because it's logical. And it also is the playoffs, and that's when Lamar Jackson often has some of his worst performances. The Ravens are just 2-4 with Lamar in the playoffs. They averaged 16 points per game in those games compared to 27.2 in the regular season. Some crazy splits. In the first half, he's completing just 52.5% of his attempts in the postseason. 2 touchdown passes, 3 picks, and about a 65 rating. Lamar Jackson can be had. The Steelers have done a fantastic job against him. Obviously, the last game was a little bit different. It was the aberration. It was Lamar actually finding it against them. But if they're able to pressure Lamar Jackson, if they're able to cover on the back end, and I know there's a lot of ifs, maybe the Steelers can head back to Pittsburgh with a victory. All right, I have some thoughts on the Pirates, a new addition they made, some arbitration stuff, and somebody I'd like to see them pursue. We'll get to those on the other side, but first, I want to tell you about the Bradenton area. Are you ready for an escape from the everyday? The Bradenton area on Florida's west coast is welcoming visitors. Our world-famous beaches are being restored to their pristine states. Beloved island businesses are bouncing back faster than expected, and our signature Floridian cuisine is just as fresh as ever. Don't wait. Start planning your visit today at BradentonGolfIslands.com. All right, so it was actually a pretty interesting signing. I thought maybe an expecting, relatively speaking. I know that everybody on the outside wants to see the Pirates do more, and that's fair. So do I. You want to see them have a better offseason than they have. But Caleb Ferguson actually makes some sense for them. He's a lefty setup man. He's done some things, pitched for some teams. He's been in Houston, New York, has a pretty good cutter. That's produced results. Since 2022, Ferguson has a 3.37 ERA. That's 13th among all lefties with at least 140 innings pitched. It's pretty solid. 19-13, 6 saves, 3.68 ERA, 314 strikeouts, 240 batting average against with the Dodgers, Yankees, and Astros. So, I mean, what the Pirates did, it's a 1-year, $3 million deal. It's building out bullpen depth. He can pitch late innings. He can pitch, he's probably not going to be the closer the way Aroldis Chapman was, but he also isn't paid like it. It's somebody who can give you professional opportunities, go left on left, whatever in the bullpen. The cutter is a pitch that actually intrigues me. He threw it 249 times last season. It had a 33.6 whiff rate and a 130 batting average against. That's a very good pitch. So again, the Pirates need to do more, not explaining it all away, but didn't hate that move. In that same vein, I'd like to talk a little bit about Randal Grichuk, as odd as that sounds. Again, I know everybody watching this would like to see them sign, Paul Goldschmidt or Pete Alonso or Christian Walker or whatever. And I know they play different positions, but I'm saying Tyler O'Neill, we'll go with that one for a comp, or Michael Conforto. Yes, I know you would like to see something else. Randal Grichuk is not an entirely useless player. This can actually be somebody who's really good for the Pirates, perhaps as an outfield complement with Jack Sawinski. Again, Randal Grichuk is a right-handed hitter. Jack's a lefty. It would balance out things pretty well. He's done a lot more than Connor Joe. Like, that was Connor Joe's old role. And Randal Grichuk actually has some pretty good numbers against lefties and righties, too, by the way. In Arizona last year, had a 291, 348, 528 slash line, which, whatever, that's a lot of numbers reading them to you. 139 WRC plus. Remember, 100 is about league average. So that was 279 plate appearances, pretty representative. He can hit. 2019 had 31 home runs, has a career 833 against left-handed pitching. Last year had a career low strikeout rate, just 16.5%. He's improved his plate discipline. He's a pretty solid outfielder. He's somebody, again, that if Jack Sawinski would figure it out and give you something against right-handed pitching, you could pair him with Grichuk, and you have a very good right field platoon. Add that to Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz. Honestly, I'm pretty good with that outfield. I'd be fine with that. I mean, they've been looking at other guys. Alex Verdugo is one, but I would take Grichuk above all of them. I think it makes the most sense. Taylor Ward's another name that's been batted around, and I'd be okay with it. But looking under the hood a little bit more about Grichuk and what's been going on lately, pretty big fan. All right, last topic is Penn State. I'm guessing there aren't many big fans there right now. Another just excruciating loss. Another one on the ledger for James Franklin, 27-24 to Notre Dame. Penn State finishes 13-3. Honestly, you read the column. I thought they were going to get it done this time. I really did. I thought there was a chance. And I think you saw that for a large part of the game. Penn State was able to run the ball effectively. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, they looked excellent. The defense, that was one of the biggest reasons why I thought Penn State would be able to be in this, performed very, very well. Denied Dennis Sutton, had a monster game. Abdul Carter, as well as Key Wheatley, made a pick and had a sack, and they just did so many good things and had Notre Dame on the ropes. And yeah, well, the play that sealed it, Drew Allar and the interception. So what does this say? What does this say about James Franklin, Penn State? What's it say about Drew? Probably nothing that I didn't already know about James Franklin. The only not unfortunate part, but I don't think Franklin coached a terrible game. Like, I thought he was fairly on point with, fourth down calls, that sort of thing. I thought it was a good defensive game plan. Offensively, you might, take some issue with things. I mean, they did not have a wide receiver catch a pass. That's inexcusable, right? There was a key third down, trying to get the ball to Tyler Warren. Drew Allar couldn't get it. I mean, is that scheme? Is that execution? Is that Notre Dame making a play? I don't know. I don't take issue directly with what James Franklin did in this game. However, you can't ignore it. It's 1-15 against top 5 teams. He's lost 13 such games in a row. But what can you do? If you think big picture, I mean, the two flashpoints in this game, right, are Drew Allar and James Franklin. James Franklin is under contract for a lot of years. I can't imagine he's going anywhere. Drew Allar, it's in his best interest to return to Penn State, which he said he's already going to do. Now, maybe if they would have won a national championship, you heard the rub that maybe he could go to the NFL. I think we saw that that's not a smart move. He did not play a good game, got bailed out by a couple of interceptions via penalties in the end zone. I just was not impressed with Drew Allar. And I don't want to sit here and bash a college kid or something like that. But I look at what Drew did and think, you need another year in college. You need a little bit more seasoning. Throws like the one at the end. That can't happen. That can't happen. You're falling backwards. You sort of throw blindly, carelessly over the middle. Christian Gray picks it off, and that sinks Penn State. And poor Drew Allar, again, he's going to sit on that and eat it all offseason. I mean, that's going to bother him, and it should. It stinks, and he'll become better for it, and I think Drew Allar can be a really good quarterback, but it was a tough loss. The other, more confounding thing, I guess, for me is Franklin and what they do with him and what he's able to change. I mean, he has to hit the transfer portal hard to get wide receiver help. He's already done that to a degree. It's, like I said before, inexcusable you don't have wide receivers contributing more in that sense. But they had a game they absolutely should have and could have won. It didn't make enough plays in crucial times to win it. All right, thanks so much for watching this, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of this and so much more from our Post-Gazette North Shore Drive podcast and YouTube networks. Like I said, I'm heading to Baltimore. I'll talk to you from there fresh on Monday morning. Maybe be talking about a Steelers win. We'll find out. But regardless, thanks for checking out First 10.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.